My name is Cole, and my tag is GreenSuigi, and I mainly speedrun Super Mario 64. I've speedrun one other game, which is Battletoads, but I didn't go too in-depth into that. And my main focus right now is 70 Star. So I grew up in southwestern Ontario, and early life, I was obviously really into video games. I was introduced to video games by my babysitter. When I was getting babysat, when I was a little kid, I was always on the computer and playing games, and that's how I got introduced to games. And I got introduced to Mario when I was really young, when I was 4 years old, and ever since then I've played Mario all day, every day, Mario games. So I knew about Mario 64 speedrunning for probably like 6 years at this point. I started playing Mario 64. I started playing Mario 64 because I discovered a video about Super Mario Star Road when I was really young, about 7 years old. And I played Mario Star Road. And then later on, I rediscovered Mario 64 ROM hacks. I watched a lot of Simple Flips. So that's how I got into Mario 64 again. And I was playing a lot of ROM hacks. And then eventually, I met one of my good friends online through streaming in 2018. And eventually, in 2020, he introduced me to speedrunning 16 Star, and that's how I got into it. I think the main thing is just like, whenever you have momentum in the game, like, you can keep it. Like, there's nothing will like get rid of all your momentum, like landing or like doing jumps over and over again, like in the newer games. And like, I don't really know how to describe it, but it's really fast, and I don't know. I feel like you have lots of control over your every move. The game doesn't really do anything for you. I think I kind of recognized like how good I was when I got my first 15. Like, I really started to believe in myself, because that was like a perfect run for me. And at that point, I realized that I was pretty much able to clutch out anything, and like, nerves didn't seem to affect me as much as I've noticed with other people. Like, I'm able to just carry my momentum all the way through the end. My first 15 was without LBLJ, and I played like 6 seconds off my sum of best, and that's kind of when I realized that I had a lot of potential. I mean, I just want my runs to be perfect. I just really like watching them back and being proud of them. And when I can't do that, I'm not happy with it. I mean, yeah, sometimes I do. Usually I get burnt out when I do a lot of runs. I find practice doesn't really burn me out. I've probably only taken a break like twice ever from like playing the game and practicing. But when I do extended periods of time where I'm doing runs every single day, I get burnt out really, really fast. So I do struggle a lot with burnout when I'm doing runs. I can't really keep up doing runs for that long. But I'm always able to just keep practicing, because I always find that fun. Taking a break for me is not really like not playing the game. It's just not doing runs, basically. I would say Bit Snow Rides is my favorite star. I've always really liked it. It's been one of those stages where it's just like, whenever I practice it, sometimes I get really annoyed, but like I'm always enjoying it. Whereas there's a lot of stars, like especially in SSL, like practicing pillarless is really, really painful. And there's a lot of stars like that, but I just always find bits fun, because I find the movement really fun. I find the tricks really fun and satisfying, and I really like it. That's hard to say. I mean, I think doing BLJs, stair BLJs consistently is probably the hardest thing ever. I think the hardest strat that I have ever done is like ultimate DDD skip and SBLJ. That is really, really hard to learn. I don't want to say it's the hardest, because it didn't take me as many hours of practice to like get decently consistent as like BLJs, but it's just super, super frustrating, and it's in its own like, I don't know. It's not something you can really expect to ever get consistent, because it's just the nature of the strat. But I would say stair BLJs are the hardest. Usually what I'm thinking is like, I think of like how much more I have left to do, and if it's not that much, it's easier to like reassure myself that it's almost over. And like, I kind of just think of like the stars I have to do next, and the fact that I'm so consistent at them, or like I'm pretty consistent at them when I practice. And like, I've done all these stars 3 times in a row, 5 times in a row, which is how I practice. Basically the only way I practice is I just do the same start over and over again until I can get like 5 in a row or 10 in a row or even more. And like, I just kind of think of that like, this is easy. I can do it. I've done this so many times. I just got to do it now, and I'm good. And that's kind of all I think about. I kind of just think of what's immediately ahead of me, basically. I just kind of like get myself to just focus on the inputs. Like, I try not to get too far into my head. Like, sometimes what you'll do And sometimes this is fine, but like you'll think like, how am I going to react if I finish this run perfectly, or like, what am I gonna do if I'm in bits and I get a 14 right now? Like, what am I gonna do? Like, sometimes you can get lost in that thought and just like thinking too far ahead. Sometimes that's fine. I've thought like, this is it, and it was it before. It's not over if you do that, but that's generally something you want to avoid. And I just kind of try to think of the inputs that I'm inputting on the controller, and then it kind of distracts me from other thoughts. I think it's just I practice smarter generally than other players, and not only smarter, but I find that a lot of other players tend to lose focus when they're practicing and are just kind of mindlessly going through the motions. Whereas like I find it pretty easy to just focus and like try my hardest when I'm practicing, just like I would in runs. And I think a big part that helps, or the big thing that helps with that, is the way I do practice. So I basically try to do streaks, and like it makes it easier for me to focus, because when I finish a star and I have to do it again and like another time in a row, it's easy to focus because there's stakes. Whereas like normally when you're just like resetting the level and just trying to finish the star, whatever, there's no stakes. So like you're not really as motivated to concentrate and play your best. But I find streaks make it easier for me to play my best, which leads to better practice. And yeah, I just think I have better focus. Sometimes I zone out, but it's pretty rare. When I initially started playing, I immediately just started doing streaks because that just didn't seem logical to me. I think over time my practice probably got better, but I'm not really sure how it developed. But I'm sure over time like it did get better just because I did it so much. It depends on the day. I mean, there's some days where I'll play for like 10 minutes and just like, whatever, which is pretty rare. Usually it's a few hours every day that I'll do practice, and I play quite a bit, but I think a lot of the reason why I'm so good with like how much playtime I have is I would say probably about like 75% of my playtime is practice. Like I'm not usually actively doing runs, so I would say I probably practice like 3 to 5 hours a day. Sometimes there's more. There's days where I do a lot, and then sometimes there's days where I just like don't really play that much. But yeah, I mean, second is probably Minecraft. I used to really like playing Minecraft. That was kind of my thing from like 2011 to 2017. That was like the main game I played. I just always played like worlds with my friends over and over and over again. We just do it over and over and over again. Lots of multiplayer. That game's really fun. I really wish I knew my playtime in that game because it's probably really, really high, worryingly high. Other than that, I mean, I really like Battletoads. That's probably my third favorite game. I think that's the first game I ever played, and I just have a lot of memories of like getting through the first couple levels with like playing with my dad or my sister, and then just giving up at the third level because I don't know if you've ever played that game. But the difficulty spike from like the second to third level is just like ridiculous, and yeah, that's probably my second favorite game. I've gotten so many hours out of that game, and even outside of speedrunning it. I've thought about this, and to be honest, there's not really anything I've thought of that like would really interest me. I want to play Battletoads again if I end up getting really bored of Mario, but I feel like there's just so much to do in Mario 64 that I don't really have any motivation to seek out any other games. So other than Battletoads, I don't know, to be honest. I mean, usually she'll just like question me later like, oh, did you get a new world record or whatever, and it's like, yeah, I did. And sometimes I wake her up, but she understands. Like I've explained to her like the emotions that go into it, and I think she's pretty understanding and supportive, so yeah. Yeah, she definitely does. She was really, really happy for me when I got initially invited to play at Double Down by GSA, that first in-person LTA that I did. And I think generally she's been pretty supportive. Over the years, like I've played a lot of video games, a lot of sitting in my room, doing nothing, playing video games all day. And obviously, she wasn't super happy about that, but like, as it became clear that something was coming out of it, she became more supportive. I mean, of course, playing video games, content creation for a while. I really liked making YouTube videos, but I eventually just kind of stopped. And I used to play the piano I really liked it, but I got forced into doing a lot of piano lessons, and that kind of killed my passion for trying to learn the piano. So I ended up dropping that. Other than that, there isn't really anything else that interests me. I do want to try picking up the piano again and just like going at my own pace and seeing where that goes, because I think it's a really, really fun instrument to play. And I mean, speedrunning and playing the piano are kind of similar in a lot of ways. Like as for YouTube, I did actually really enjoy making YouTube videos. I really enjoyed the process of it. Usually not the script writing. That was kind of like a big wall for me, was writing the script, because that's just really boring. But the main problem with me for YouTube content was just like, I was really bad at settling on an idea or like coming up with ideas for what to do. And when I didn't have an idea, I was just kind of like demotivated to even try anything. And like if I didn't have an idea that I thought was really, really good, I just wouldn't even bother. And I think that was my big problem. And eventually I just kind of didn't have any ideas and just kind of stopped. And as for big influences, I mean, I used to watch a lot of Nintendo YouTubers. I think probably one of the bigger influences is I used to watch a lot of Nathaniel Bandy. He was a big influence because he was actually a part of one of my introduction to speedrunning. I watched that one video. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's 10 YouTubers versus one speedrunner. It came out like 2017 or something, and he was a part of that. So he was a part of one of my first introductions to speedrunning. But I would say like I kind of looked up to him and like how he made his videos. So that was a pretty big early influence for me. I mean, it would probably revolve around speedrunning. I don't really know, to be honest. I haven't really thought of that yet. I'm not like super far into that sort of thing. I mean, I'm gonna make tutorials, but I want to go farther than that, of course. But to be honest, I don't really have any ideas yet. Okay, well, I do want to talk about like probably my favorite channel. So he makes documentaries. His username is Bobby Broccoli. I don't know if you've seen any of his videos, but he makes these pretty long form like content delving into like science scandals or like that sort of stuff, and I really like his videos. Outside of that, I used to watch a lot of melee highlights on YouTube. But to be honest, I don't really watch too much YouTube anymore, because I find that I used to watch it a lot and I kind of thought of it as just like a waste of time, and I don't really watch it too much anymore. But when I do, I'll usually like try to find something long form.
How do you feel when you see hi simply in your chat when you're on World Record Pace?
It's annoying.
It's annoying?
Yeah. It's just like, I'm on World Record Pace. Why are you talking about Simply? Like, why does everyone have to talk about Simply? This joke has lasted a year, and it's just like, it's so old. I've seen it so many times. I don't like it. I hate it. I mean, to be honest, like as I've grown, especially over the past 3 months, ever since I got like 1435, my name's gotten a lot more out there. So like people who aren't as familiar with speedrunning and in the community have come into my chat. And some days it's pretty good, and I'm enjoying streaming. But a lot of the time it's just like I get really tired of the repetitive questions or like the nagging to do 120 star or do something else, or like a lot of people will try to give advice when I'm frustrated, and it's just like I think I find it pretty annoying. Some days I like it, but yeah, it's just okay. I'm not really the biggest fan of streaming runs sometimes. Okay, so in a lot of ways, I mean, it is sort of cool having getting all the attention and like people care about what you do, but in like another way, I kind of don't like it, because generally I don't really like being the center of attention, and I feel like now I have a lot more influence and a lot more responsibility to like really control what I kind of do and say, and like there's a lot more criticisms of me like floating around there, because there's so many more people watching, and like so many more people who don't really understand speedrunning watching. And I mean, I kind of like it, but for the most part I don't really like having so much attention put on me, but it is what it is. I would say overall it's a net positive. I mean, I personally don't really like it right now, but I think eventually I will get used to having more attention on me, and like, I mean, it helps grow my stream and like all that kind of stuff. So I would say overall it's a net positive. I mean, it just was really hard for me to let go of 16 star, because when I didn't have any stakes in any of the other categories, or like any PBs or anything, I didn't really have anything I was going for or like wanted to get. So like 16 star, I always had like a goal in mind to keep pushing, and like if I didn't have that, I really didn't want to move on. And I don't think it took me like 3 years of speedrunning to like move on from a category where I hadn't achieved my goal yet, and that was with 0 star. But like I've always had trouble, like if I had a goal in mind and I didn't end up getting it, I didn't end up achieving it, like I would just keep going. Even if it was like miserable, I would just keep playing because I just didn't want to feel like I failed, I guess. So I think like that's kind of why. It's just because like I felt I didn't feel satisfied yet, and I started with 16 star. I'm sure if I started with 70 star, I would have just kept doing 70 star forever. And I just kind of like the hyper optimization of the shorter categories a lot, but I do really enjoy running 70 star, and I think eventually when I feel satisfied with that, I'll enjoy running 122. Okay, I wasn't expecting to improve that quickly, but in a lot of ways, I think running the short categories is an advantage, and like transitioning to long categories is an advantage, because initially it is a little bit slower to like get into the groove and like actually start doing runs. But when you run shorter categories, you're a lot more trained to try to save time literally everywhere. And if you bring that mentality over to 70 star and 120 star, you're going to do great, because not only are you really good at going fast, but you have to be really good at going fast consistently for the shorter categories. I think that transition is great to 70 star. So I was a little surprised, but in a lot of ways, I knew my movement was really good, so it made sense. I would say overall, I probably enjoyed like getting good at 16 the most. 16 star is my favorite category, but I really like running 70 star as well. I find it a lot easier to play or do runs for longer, because 70 star is a lot less draining than the shorter categories, which is interesting because I feel a lot of people, I don't want to say seem to think, because it might be different for everybody, but a lot of people think that like 70 star, like I don't know about 120 stars, so I haven't ran it, so I'm not going to speak on that, but like the longer categories are more draining because you have to play for longer. But I find the stress of the lower categories is just so much higher, because it's just constant stress of like having to go as fast as possible, make no mistakes. And like a big part of it is, at least for me, BLJs are something that, a part of the game where like I have to constantly be practicing and maintaining it and thinking about it to like be able to hit it in runs. And it's really stressful thinking about like, if I get to the end of the game and I'm trying BLJs and like I'm doing my mash, and if I mash like one frame off, which is really easy to do, it's all over. So like a lot of time I'll be constantly thinking about that, and just like the later parts of the run having to go perfectly, and I find it really, really stressful. So I find 70 star really fun because not only do you get to play a lot, because the intro is a shorter part of the run. So like when you get into a run, you usually get to play for like 5 or 10 minutes or even longer. Whereas like in the shorter categories, you're just like, you get to play for a couple minutes and then you're done. So I do find it really fun because it's longer, because it's a lot less stressful to like, because you don't have to go as optimally the entire way through, which makes it a lot less stressful and fun to run. But overall, I would say 16 was my favorite category to run until my PB got really good. And like now 70 stars is my favorite to run. I mean, I just know it's going to take a lot of time to like practice everything. I don't really have anxiety or worry about not being able to learn everything, because I had that initial like thought with 70, like there's all these things that like seem so hard to do, and like I'm going to take forever to learn them, and whatever, maybe I can't even do them. But I think I'll be able to learn everything. But it's just, I'm worried that I'm going to take so long that I'm not going to be able to stream runs for like months. That's my main worry with 120, but like I am excited to learn it eventually. I just want to be satisfied with 70 first, and the other categories as well. I would say my favorite runner like recently that has come up is probably Tag, because I find he kind of had a similar like improvement route to me. Like I see a lot of like me in him, basically, just like the way he practices and the way he got good and everything, and like the route he took there. He got good really fast. He's a top runner now in the shorter categories, and I would say overall it's him. Over the years, I've really liked watching Slip play. I don't know what it is about Slip's stream, but like I just really like watching him run 16 and like getting PBs, and I just find it really hype. And he's the first top runner I watch, so it's probably a lot of that in it. It's just like he's the first runner I watch, so I don't know. I just keep coming back to him. I think it's been really fun. I think probably the most special memory is like, it wasn't at pace, but I went to Double Down and I got to meet Trey, and I mean he's my best friend, so that was really exciting. And the main thing that was exciting about it was like, not only was it my first time meeting anyone in the community or like meeting him or whatever, but it was my first time meeting anybody from like the internet that I've met ever. So like that was like a really like magical moment to just like walk down the hallway and just see Trey there. Like everybody I know is actually 3D and real, which is just really cool. I think last pace, I really enjoyed hanging out in the hotel rooms and just chilling with specifically the group of people was Bedronis, Jesus, and GTAs. We had a few nights where we just kind of like hung out and played some games and just like talked in the hotel rooms, and I just really enjoyed that. It was really simple and fun to meet those people. For Mario 64, my immediate goal right now is just to get a better 70 time. I want to get a 46.3x before I stop, but I think I might push it to a 46.2x because it seems doable to me, and I feel like I'd be happy with that. After that, I don't really know what I do. I'll kind of go by the feel of things. I want to do 0 star again and get a 6.1x because I didn't end up getting that when I last ran it. But I think what will end up happening is I'll practice it for like 30 minutes and then hate my life and get really depressed and then do 120. That's probably what's going to happen. So I would say probably after 70 star I'll do 120, but maybe I'll do 0 star. With 120, I don't really have a goal in mind because I feel like setting a goal in 120 is kind of silly just because I know I'm just going to keep going. So I feel like a goal is almost kind of pointless. And I just want to get good at 120. As for 5 out of 5, if it happens, it happens. I don't really want to... I haven't really set that as like a goal I want to happen because I know there's a big chance that if I don't get it at like the right time, then I'll never get it. And I just don't want that stress. I've considered it and everything, but it's not really like a goal I actually have. And as for life, I mean, after I finish my next year of school in high school, I'm taking an extra year of high school. I'm going to take at least a year off just to stream because at this point it's not really, it would be stupid not to. And after that, I'm gonna probably learn a trade. I'm thinking of trying to become an electrician and eventually having that be my like primary source of income and job, because I do want to stream for a while, but eventually I would rather just have a financially stable like source of income, and I would just rather work a full-time job than streaming in the future. And I mean, yeah, buy a house, start a family. Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah.